Hi, and welcome to the Heropath run-through. My name is Jack, and I'll be your host through this tutorial. My main goal in the current review is not to display the game instructions or the different options that the game has to offer. More like a glass of wine, just give you a taste of how this game really feels like. Also note that the board used in this clip is only a prototype. The actual product may differ slightly. Okay then, at the start of the game, each player chooses their hero and gets their hero board. As you can see, every hero board includes attributes, supplies, armament, resources, and a short guide to assist players during their turn. These elements will be explained later. When you advance in one of your attributes, you receive a gem, which symbolizes your power. The more powerful each hero is, the better chance they have to beat the enemies. The goal of the game is very simple. You just need to slay the dragon. The hero that succeeds to slay the dragon is the winner, and the game is over. Let's start by understanding the three different phases of the game: the setup, card drafting, and then playing the game. The setup phase is done by placing all the food, gems, and gold on the hero board according to each hero. Every hero has a different amount of accessories that they start with, which is explained in the manual. You must also place the place sites, the enemies, cards, and the raft on the main board as shown on the manual. After the setup phase, we move into the card drafting phase. This round happens once in the game in the following order. Each player randomly picks 7 cards from the market, arms, abilities, and magic as written in the manual, and puts them in their hands. Each player chooses 1 card, and then puts the other 6 cards in front of the player to his left. Then every player takes the 6 new cards that are in front of him, and chooses from all the 7 cards, including the one he got last round, and chooses 2 cards. So, what is interesting is that players are not obligated to keep the card that they picked in the previous round. After this, he will place the 5 cards in front of the player to his left, and the drafting continues until each player has 5 cards in their hand. The remaining cards return to the bottom of each deck on the main board. Once players have 5 cards, they put them onto their hero boards, which builds the hero's resources. Each time you play, your cards will vary, which will change the dynamic of the game. When the card drafting has finished, it's game time. Players choose who starts the game. In this video, I'll be playing the game with 2 players, the Dwarf and the Elf. All players start the game at the farmhouse, but each hero ventures off onto their own path. Every player has 4 actions per turn. In each action, he can choose between 5 existing options, which are shown on the hero board. The Dwarf will start the game, so let's briefly look at the Dwarf's options to start the game. He can travel, rest, visit a new place site, encounter with other heroes, or battle an enemy. So right now, he can only travel or rest. The Dwarf decided to travel so he can move up to 4 spaces for his first action. By the way, there are 3 separate ways heroes can travel in this game. They are traveling by foot, sailing on the raft, or taking a ride on the hot air balloon. Now let's get back to our game. For his first action, he will travel with the hot air balloon. Let's see where he will travel to. He rolled hot air balloon die and goes wherever he wants along the river or into the forest area. All the different areas on the board and the areas that are shown on the hot air balloon die are explained in the instruction manual. So the Dwarf decided to land in the forest at the temple place site. To understand each site, you can look at the index board, which explains every action that can be done while visiting specific place sites. We see that the temple location is green, which symbolizes faith. It says that players can receive up to 3 faith gems according to the amount of existing experience they have. and you must pay 1 food in order to receive the gems. Now back to the dwarf. He spent his second action visiting the temple. He paid 1 food to the bank and received 2 faith gems. Yay! For his third action, he travels to the nearest enemy and reveals it. Let's see what enemy he has to face. Oh, goody, it's a goblin. Goblins are not the fiercest enemies, which is good news for the dwarf. As part of his fourth action, he decides to fight the goblin. Now about battling. Whoever has the most overall points wins the battle. You may be thinking, how do you figure out who has the most overall points? Well, it's done in a simple way. First, you roll 2 dice for your hero and 1 die for the enemy. There are some enemies that receive 2 dice, but not this guy. There we go. The hero dice is 3 and the enemy die is 3. Second, we calculate each side to figure out who won the battle. For the dwarf, start by adding all the gems in his attributes and his cards in the armament area. His basic power is 12 because he has 11 gems in his attribute section and 1 sword, which gives him an extra point. In addition, we add the points from the dice and receive his overall power of 15. Now for the goblin, his basic power is written on the main board here. In addition, we add the points from the die and receive his overall power of 13. Yay! He won the battle! So what happens after the successful battle? The defeated goblin goes straight to the scale of evil, where all the dead enemies will go. The goblin was placed on the number 1. Note that the level of evil gives each enemy extra basic points, so the enemies get stronger as the game progresses. His fourth action was the battle. For winning the battle, he receives 1 experience gem, and he gets to pick a fortune card. Fortune cards are the only cards that you cannot buy. They're only accessible through successful battles. The majority of the fortune cards are very good, but some of them can change the power balance within the game in an interesting way. The dwarf picks a fortune card. Let's see what he got. He got the hieroglyphics board card. With this fortune, he can gain 1 ability card and can use it whenever he wants during the game. Yay! This is a very good fortune. He places this card in his resources under Equipment. To make it easier to remember where to put cards, there is a symbol on each card that must match the symbol on your hero board. In addition, every new card that you take must first be placed in the resource section. Now, that concludes the dwarf's first turn. And now it's time for the elf's turn. With her first action, she decides to take 2 steps to reach the river and take a raft ride. She is in search of a battle. Now where will she go? To the mountains, where there are unrevealed enemies. After she will reveal the enemy, she can start her second action. So she flips the enemy coin and, she revealed the warlock. This is not good news for the elf. The warlock is very difficult to kill. By looking at the main board, we see that the warlock's starting points are 12. And unlike the goblin, the warlock receives 2 enemy dice, not only 1 like the goblin for additional points. The elf needs to think strategically. Is there a high probability that she will win? No. The elf decides to avoid the warlock. She does not think the odds are in her favor for this battle. But avoiding the enemy doesn't come free of charge. To avoid a battle against enemies, players must pay 1 vitality gem to the bank. So, the elf decided to pay the bank 1 vitality gem and walks away to an empty space that concludes her second action. For the elf's third action, she can either travel more or rest. The elf decides to rest because she lost her vitality during her last action. As we can see on the hero board, resting allows players to recover 1 vitality gem. She can also eat food and gain more vitality gems. She can change between her armament and resources to be better equipped for battle. After that action, her vitality is at its maximum of 5 gems. The final part of the rest action is that the elf can roll the search die. Now let's see what she gets. Wow, she got another gold coin. This is good news because gold allows you to buy things like in the market or from the blacksmith and so on. For her 4th action, she decides to travel 4 steps into the mountains and encounters Crocodile Man enemy. But that concludes her 4 actions. She'll need to either fight or flee the Crocodile Man enemy only on her next turn. Now it's the Dwarf's second turn. Since he had a really good first turn, he's feeling confident. With his first action, he goes to the blacksmith to see what the blacksmith has to offer him. At the blacksmith's, there are a few things heroes can do. They can buy things for 2 gold coins or sell them for 1 gold coin. This rule is applied to everything that you want to buy or sell, making trade easier and faster. By looking at his hero board, we see that he has 1 ring occupying 1 space and 1 sword occupying another space, so he has 3 more spaces of armament to spend. That means he definitely has space to buy something from the blacksmith. Let's see what the blacksmith can sell him. Oh, there's a shield. That's a good option for him. By carrying a shield, he can defend himself from the evil enemies. But he only has 1 gold coin, so he should sell something from his board and receive 1 gold coin before he can buy the shield. Look, he currently has in his resource section another ring that is not useful for him. So he decides to sell the ring, and that gives him enough gold coins to buy the shield that he wanted. Note, selling and buying these are considered 1 visiting action. Now he will place the shield into his resource section, as you can see over here. And now it's time for his 3rd action. For my 3rd action, he wants to rest because he saw that resting helped the elf. He gains 1 vitality gem, and he pays 1 food to the bank in order to gain 2 extra vitality gems. And just like the elf, he also gets to roll the search die. What will he find? This is very interesting. He found 1 gold coin and 1 scroll. This good news for the dwarf. What does the scroll represent in Heropath? Magic. Now he can go to the magic section on the game board and choose his desired magic card. Yay! Let's see what is in the magic corner. There is Fata Morgana, which allows you to receive 1 exposed arms card. But to receive this card, you must have at least 2 wisdom gems, which he does not have, so doesn't want to take it. Let's see what else there is. Ooh, the leech card. This looks like a fun card. What does this card do? The hero who has this card uses it whenever he or she likes, and then everyone else in the game is affected by a leech plague. What happens during this plague? Everyone will need to take 1 leech, except for the hero with the card. Oh, goody! So he will keep this card for a later use. For his 4th and final action, he decides to take 2 steps forward and land on an undiscovered enemy square. He reveals the enemy. What is it? Oh, the werewolf. This isn't good news for the dwarf because the werewolf is not so easy to kill. That concludes his 4th action. Now his 2nd turn is over, and he will have to decide to battle or flee during his 1st action next turn. In the meantime, it is the elf's turn, and the dwarf is left with his agony until his next turn. Now to the elf. Remember where she left off? That's right, with the Crocodile Man enemy. With her 1st action, she decides to face the Crocodile Man. Just like the other battles shown during this run-through, she rolls 2 hero dice for herself and 1 enemy die for the Crocodile Man. What will the results be? The Crocodile Man received 2 points, and the elf received 4 points. Do you remember how we calculate overall points? We take the starting points of the elf and the crocodile man and add the additional points from the dice roll. The alligator starts with 14, and the die gave him 2, so his overall points are 16. Now for the elf, she starts with 12 points, which includes her gems and weapons. And with the dice, she adds 4 points altogether, giving her 16 points. It's a tie. What does she do next? During a tie, the hero wins the battle and receives an experience gem, although the hero does not receive a fortune card. So after this tie, the elf needs to take the crocodile man and send him straight to the scale of evil. Let's examine this unique mechanism. The crocodile man is placed on top of the previous killed dead enemy, and because there are the same amount of dead enemies as there are players in the game, the next dead enemy will reveal a new stage in the scale of evil. And only then will the future enemies receive 1 additional power point during their battles. What is so innovative about this mechanism? It kills 2 birds with 1 stone. From the one hand, the enemies within the game advance as the game progresses, making it more difficult for players. It's like there's a player behind the enemies in the game. And on the other hand, it keeps the power balanced according to the number of players. So the progression rate of the enemies adapts itself according to the number of players. For her next action, the elf could travel with the raft and go to a new location that seems good, but she doesn't do it. The elf has an idea that she has been planning. She wants to fight the warlock. So to do that, she travels forward to face the warlock. As we said before, the warlock is hard to beat because he gets 2 battle dice. So the elf rolls 2 enemy die and 2 hero die. She got 4, and the warlock got 4. The warlock started with 12. We add the 4 points and get 16 overall points. The elf starts with 13, and she receives 4 additional points from the dice, which makes her overall points 17. Yay, she won! This was smart of the elf because she has space to add an experience gem. Since the elf won that battle, she gets to draw a fortune card. What will it be? Oh, an ancient book. The card says if you read this card while resting, you'll be granted 1 magic card. Wow! This is very good. This card will definitely encourage the elf to rest a lot during the game. Now we need to see if there are requirements needed to use this card. There are. Players need to have at least 2 wisdom gems to use this card. Now we need to look at the elf's wisdom. Yay! She has 2 wisdom gems. So the elf takes this ancient book and places it on the hero board. When picking up fortune cards, you must be alert because although in this run-through the cards were all good, there are also bad fortune cards. Be prepared for anything from deep snow to a blizzard sandstorm. Now that she has the experience gem and her fortune card, do you remember what she does with the defeated warlock? She sends him straight to the scale of evil. This is good for the elf because she gets to raise the scale of evil, which will make the dwarf's next battle more difficult. As you see, there are now 3 enemies on the scale of evil. Whenever a new stage is revealed, the game is paused and the dragon gets a turn to play. What does the dragon's turn involve, you may be thinking? The players that killed the enemy and caused the scale of evil to go up is the one to play for the dragon. So in our run-through, since the elf killed the warlock and that raised the scale of evil, the elf will be the one to play the dragon's turn. Let's understand what the dragon can do during his turn, and the reason why we refer to him as fierce and mighty. We're about to find out now. The dragon's turn involves 2 phases. The first phase is rolling the flare die and changing the dragon's location if the player wants to one of the 3 mountains of his or her choice. To reveal who was affected by the dragon's flare, we roll the flare die. It is important to note that whatever area is shown on the flare die, any heroes in that area lose 1 vitality gem. And after the dragon is moved, anyone who is 1 square away from the dragon loses 1 vitality gem as well. The second phase is each player discovers a new place site which is at least 7 steps away from him, and each pick a new enemy and place them face down wherever they want, even on spaces where heroes are. The elf takes the new hidden enemy and places it in front of the werewolf. Do you remember where the werewolf was? That's right, exactly where the dwarf was. So during the dwarf's next turn, he must fight off the werewolf and the new hidden enemy, or flee both battles. He was not prepared for this. The dwarf is going to need some luck in these upcoming battles. The game will continue in this manner until one of the heroes will decide to face the mighty dragon. You can meet him in the mountains and fight him. If you can successfully slay the dragon, the game is over and you're the winner. Pay attention that the dragon starts with 15 points which you add to it, the extra points from the scale of evil. In addition, you roll 2 enemy dice to determine his overall points. So think wisely before you jump to pay him a visit. That's all, folks. I hope you enjoyed this run-through. Happy playing, and thank you very much.